Welcome to our channel, where we explore fascinating ideas about how our minds work. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Michael. Today we're diving into one of the most influential books in behavioral economics and psychology, Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking work on decision-making and cognitive biases.
What fascinates me most about Kahneman's research is this idea of two distinct thinking systems. Michael, could you break this down for our listeners?
Absolutely. Think about it like this. We all have two mental characters living in our heads. System 1 is like our mind's autopilot, quick, intuitive, and running in the background. System 2 is our analytical brain, slower, more deliberate, and takes effort to engage.
I love that analogy. You know what's funny? Right now, our listeners' System 1 is probably handling things like understanding our words automatically, while their System 2 might be engaged in processing these new concepts we're discussing.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the book's most striking insights: how these systems can sometimes conflict. Sarah, what's your favorite example of this?
The famous bat and ball problem. Mind if I share it with our listeners?
Go for it.
Here's a puzzle. A bat and ball cost $1.10 together. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost?
You know what's fascinating? Most people's System 1 immediately jumps to saying 10 cents, but that's actually incorrect.
Right. If you engage System 2 and think it through slowly, if the ball were 10 cents and the bat costs $1 more, the bat would be $1.10, making the total $1.20, not $1.10.
The correct answer is 5 cents for the ball and $1.05 for the bat. It's a perfect example of how our quick, intuitive thinking can lead us astray.
Let's talk about some practical implications. How does understanding these two systems help us make better decisions?
Well, one key insight is recognizing when we need to slow down and engage System 2, like in important financial decisions or when evaluating risks.
Speaking of risks, Kahneman's work on loss aversion is fascinating. People tend to feel losses much more intensely than equivalent gains.
Absolutely. It's why losing $100 feels worse than finding $100 feels good. This has huge implications for everything from investment decisions to how companies frame their marketing messages.
You know what really struck me? The concept of the experiencing self versus the remembering self. Want to explore that?
Oh, that's a fascinating one. It's about how our memories of experiences don't always match how we actually felt during them.
Before we close, let's give our listeners some practical takeaways. What's one thing we can all do to make better decisions?
I'd say, learn to recognize when you need to slow down and engage System 2, especially for important decisions. Take time to question your initial intuitive responses.
Great advice. And remember, listeners, awareness is the first step. Just knowing about these mental processes can help us make better choices.
That's all for today's episode. Join to our channel for next podcast.